Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at harmonized leads. So I've got this Latin, kind of a Latin Hawaiian sounding composition, but your takeaway will be to be able to harmonize leads like that on your own so that you can improvise that. So if you're in a jam session and it's your turn to play a lead, you'll be able to improvise a lead playing a harmony like that, and it's actually not that difficult to do. So we're going to take everything that I played in the intro, we're going to break it down note for note, and I'm going to give you all the why behind those notes so that you understand how it works. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video we're going to take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, as well as download the tablature and the MP3 jam track, which is the other rhythm guitar, so you can practice along, get your timing down. You can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP157. You'll also have a bonus. There's a bonus for premium members, which is the rhythm track. So I'm going to break down the rhythm. It's got its own kind of unique strum where you're playing the bass notes and strumming. So that's an extra lesson that comes for premium members. But anyway, you can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Remember, it's EP157. All right, let's go ahead and get started with part one. All right, so I've given this lesson some thought in terms of structure, and what I want to do, I want to start with just a little bit of theory first, which isn't something I normally do, but I think it's important in this case, because remember, your goal in this is to be able to improvise and play a harmonized lead whenever you want. It's not necessarily just memorize what I'm doing, although that's a great way to practice this and kind of get you going. Your end goal should be that you can do this on your own. You can improvise. So let's start with a little bit of theory, and then we'll get into the specific notes. So the first thing I want to call out is just the chord structure. So this song is in the key of C. That's going to be very important because everything we're going to play is going to be in the C major scale. And I'll explain that in just a second. But the chords are, you have a C, then it goes to a G7, and then back to the C. Right? And then the second part, there's an F, and it goes back to the C. So everything to that point has been in the key of C. That means that even though there's different chords going on, I'm staying in the C major scale. I'm not matching a scale to a chord. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just staying in the C major scale with this harmonized lead. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at just the single notes of the C major scale. And let me show you a way to think about how you get to that major scale. So I always like to base everything off of a chord. It makes a lot more sense when you do it that way because you can always get to it no matter what key you're playing in. So let's start with a C chord. This is a C major chord using the E chord shape. I know, hopefully you know what I mean when I say that. Like if we play an E chord down here, and we just bar it, we come all the way up here. That's called the E chord shape. It's part of the caged system. So using our C major chord, we can do a lot with this. Now what I've done by putting that bar down, mentally, this is how I think of it. I've established home base. So from this home base, I've got my minor pentatonic scale. So all of my bluesy stuff, bluesy licks can live right there. Now the major pentatonic scale, now we're still going to stay in pentatonic for a minute. That just means 5 notes, penta 5. But to get to the major pentatonic scale, we slide everything down 1, 2, 3 frets from where we started. That's true of any of the patterns that you learn. You can always go 3 frets this way, and you can get to the major version of that. So now, if you don't know what I mean, if you're lost at this point, I do have a blues lead course that goes through the 5 different patterns. That's available to premium members at Active Melody under the My Courses area. But so anyway, there's your minor pentatonic scale and your major pentatonic scale based off of this root fret. That's kind of your visual anchor. So here's how I want you to think about playing the major scale. Instead of starting with our index finger, we're going to start with our pinky, because this is your C note. That's your root. And watch this. We're going to start with the major pentatonic scale, starting with our pinky. Okay, so we just started there. Now we're going to add 2 notes to the major pentatonic scale to get the major scale. The major scale is just do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. It's the scale that everybody knows inherently. But we're going to walk up the major pentatonic scale, and then watch this. right here we're adding this note. Now that's an F. So just look at where it is in relation to the major pentatonic scale. It'll make it very easy for you. We're going to keep walking up the scale. We're going to add another note. That's this note. That's a B note. And then up to the octave, or the higher C. So now we have... Now why is that important? Well, look at... That's the major scale. But look at where it is in relation to this E chord shape. And then we can keep going up. There's your F there. And there's your B there. So now you have 2 octaves of the scale, all easily derived from this E chord shape, just by starting it with your pinky. Okay? And now what I want you to do, if you don't know the major scale, memorize that. And also memorize it in a couple of different positions. So that's one way to do it. Another way, and I'm not going to get into that in this lesson, but I just want to show you playing off this chord shape. This is the A chord shape. It's a C chord, but I'm using the A chord shape. Here's your A chord. So you could play it like that. So you have different places that you can play that major scale. Alright, so now to demonstrate the point that we're going to just stay in the C major scale, let me play these chords and I'll just kind of work in the major scale in between them. I'm not going to switch scales to match chords. I'm just going to play the C major scale. So we're just going to start with a C. There's the little scale. There's the G7 chord. Now see what I just did there? I just went... That's just, even though I played a C and a G, I stayed in that scale. So even when you go to the F part, those notes that I played, see, they're in that scale. So now this is all going to make sense when you hear me play these harmonized leads. It's just the major scale. Harmonized, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's start by learning the harmonized major scale off of this chord shape. Now some of this will be familiar to some of you because I've covered this in other lessons. But if we're playing this chord shape, you can see I've got a little bar here. Some of you use your ring finger for that, but this is important because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch fingers. I'm going to play with my index finger now, and I'm going to play strings 2 and 3. Now this is barring here on the 5th fret. And what I've done there, it's just part of the chord, but I'm just playing 2 notes out of it. But that's the first of our do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's the first harmonized note. Now I'm going to add my middle finger on the 6th fret 2nd string and then my ring finger on the 7th fret 3rd string to get that. So I've covered this in other lessons where if you're playing a rhythm, for example, and you want a little fill lick that you can do that's harmonized, that's an easy way to do it because it just plays off that chord shape. It's so intuitive. Now now that you got that, let's slide that up 2 frets. Now look at what we have. We have do, re, mi. So now you can take those 3 notes out of the major scale and you can always use them. They're very easy to get to, and that's over any key. If you're playing in in D, just look at how it plays off of the chord. That's the key. Okay, so we have this. Now we're going to go like this. Now what I've done is from this position, I've taken my ring finger and I slid up to the 10th fret 3rd string, and my pinky goes down on the 10th fret 2nd string so that I'm in this position. The important thing to remember when you're doing this on the same set of strings is you're always going to only have 2 different patterns. So the pattern is either going to be both strings on the same fret, or they're going to be staggered like this. That's if you're playing strings 2 and 3. If you're playing strings 1 and 2, which we'll get into in a second, same thing, only going to be 2 patterns, but the patterns are slightly different. But I did want to point that out. It's either going to be A or B. have this, 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 and this. Now we have do, re, mi, fa, right? So now if you look at what we've done, we've made a little bridge from this chord voicing to this chord voicing by going. So that just makes it easier if you're playing a lead. Now you're up in this position and you got all the licks you can do around this chord. Okay, now from here, let's think of it this way. So remember our bar is here on the 8th fret. Well, now we're going to jump to strings 1 and 2, and we're going to play this. Look at where that is in relation to the bar, though. That's the important thing. So if our bar was here, we're now going to put our index finger on the 7th fret 1st string and our middle finger on the 8th fret 2nd string. Okay? So there's your bar, and there's that. Now just remember, anytime you're playing something in a key, like if it's in the key of A, and you want to go, you've got a little harmonized part of your lead right there in relation to the bar. So just remember that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to slide to this pattern. So this is the remember how I said there's 2 patterns on each set of strings? So this is the 2nd pattern. So on this pattern, our index finger goes down on the 8th fret 1st string, and ring finger goes down on the 10th fret 2nd string. So we had this and we had this. Now just look at where this is in reference to this chord shape. So it just makes it easy to go, just to kind of visualize it. Now from here we're going to slide that up 2 frets, and then we're going to go back to this same little pattern, but we're going to do it up here so that our middle finger's on the 12th fret 1st string, ring finger's on the 13th fret 2nd string. What we have just done is we've played the major scale using harmonies. So let's start all the way back at this chord shape. That's the C major scale, played with harmonies. So now that you've got that, your big takeaway in this will be looking at what you just learned, how it plays off familiar chord shapes. This is the most basic bar chord, and now you know that you can always go to little licks around that chord. And look at how when we walked from here and we slid up to here, look at those 2 notes. They're right inside this chord. If I can play the chord, there it is. It's just these 2 notes. See how this chord is just a natural bridge to get you down to this chord? Now you're starting to unlock the neck, and visually it starts to really make sense because now you can transpose that information into any key. So if you're playing something in another key, it would be very easy to do off of the chord shapes. Okay, that's a lot of background material. Now your first thing before you get into it is just practice playing. And then walk it back down. Now the next thing you want to do, or the last thing I guess in terms of a theory, is to take those same notes but apply it to just strings 1 and 2. Same exact notes, but instead of starting here, we're going to start down here. These are, if I'm playing a C chord, these are the top 2 notes out of the C chord. So we have this note, we have this. Remember, it's just going to be either shape A or shape B, right? So it's going to look like that. We have that, which is index finger here on the 1st fret, 1st string. And then we have our ring finger on the 3rd fret 2nd string. Slide that up 2 frets. Go back to this pattern, and then we're going to slide that up 2 frets. Now we've already learned it from here. There's our bar chord. So just add these extra little shapes in, those 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you can play the C harmonized major chord for the key of C, but you can transpose this since you know how it plays off the chords. Now that you've got that, all of this that I'm about to show you is going to make a lot more sense. I know that was a huge digression, but I think it's important otherwise you're just memorizing notes, and that's no good. All right, so now let's go to the lesson. So the first thing that happens is this little lick that happens around C. And what I did was I started with this. So if we were counting this in, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it comes in on the 2 of the beat. So you got 1, 2, and 2 starts here. Now what I'm doing is I'm just playing the C chord shape, but instead of playing it like that, I'm playing it like this. So I've just kind of inverted it. I'm barring here the first 4 strings on the 5th fret, and then I got my ring finger on the 7th fret, 5th string. And I'm just playing 5, 4, 3. And then I jump right into the harmonize. And I'm coming up here. Now this is a passing note. It's just kind of sliding into it. And a lot of that Latin feel is... You don't start right on the note, you start right before it. It's almost incorrect from a theory standpoint, I guess, but it works because it's like a passing tone that gets you to where you're going to go. So this is my middle finger on the 7th fret, 2nd string, ring finger on the 8th fret, 3rd string. And we're going to slide that up. And we're just going to go back and forth between this position and this position. So we got back. Now watch this. This is going to get us up to this position. Now this is another little kind of a passing tone if you think of it that way. Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to get to this position. Remember, this is a part of that chord shape, or part of that scale that we just learned, the harmonized scale. So then I just keep my ring finger there on the 9th fret, 3rd string. Pinky goes down on the 9th fret, 2nd string. And then we just take both of those and slide them up one set of frets so that they're both on the 10th fret, string 2 and 3. We hit that twice. And then I come down and play. So this is just the second note out of the harmonized major scale. So, and then from there, I use my pinky and I come down here to the 9th fret, 4th string, and then index finger on the 5th fret, 4th string. That's going to be a stretch for some of you, but just practice it. You'll be able to do it. I have small hands and I can do it. All right, so backing up slowly, we have... And then I went... That's just the first 2 notes out of Do, Re, Mi. The first 2 that we learned. So it's... I'm not even going to call them out. You can see what I'm doing there, but that's these 2. All right? And then I kind of echoed that by going... Coming down here and playing that. Now that's just using that kind of Hendrix area chord shape, and that's barring the first 4 strings there on the 5th fret and playing strings 4 and 3. I'm playing here on the 7th fret, 4th string, and then taking that finger off. And that's how I kind of mirror that. There's the first time, this is the second time. And then it just repeats. It goes back to... I like that kind of slide from here. Since it's too big of a stretch, I just kind of slide it down. And then I counted it like this. 4, 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And play a little lick there. That lick is just out of the major scale. So I'm just going here on the 5th fret, 2nd string. I did a hammer-on pull-off between the 5th fret and the 6th fret on the 2nd string. And then I did another hammer-on there to the 7th fret, 3rd string. It's pretty easy to do, actually. If you're having a hard time with it, just do it slow. And over time, you'll be able to play it like that. And then I came down to the 5th fret, 3rd string. So 3, 4, 1, and then that last note there is the 7th fret 4th string. Okay, now this is the point where the song goes to the F chord. I'm going to save this for the second video, and we'll finish out that in part 2. But this will get you, everything that we just learned will get you through the whole C part, and it does repeat. Let me back up and I'll play through that. If you're not a premium member, do check it out because it's very affordable, and I put up lessons every week. Lots of good information. If you're really interested in learning to play guitar, not just memorizing songs, you should look into it. All right, let's back up. We have and then on to the F part. Alright, so that's what we have in part 1. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you can start to take all of this and put it into practice. Go ahead and play along with a jam track, or play along with your favorite album or whatever. And just find the key, and then start, now that you know how to play that harmonized scale, see how it works. It's pretty cool. Alright, we'll see you in part 2.